What's up, everyone? This is Jay here from FantasyLabs, and I'm joined here with Justin and John, my two coworkers who are severely addicted to coffee. And we're here to break down the Monday, March 7th, 7-game NBA slate. John, I got to say, I'm pretty disappointed. You kind of ruined our kind of NBA news weekend plans. Justin and I both saw Deadpool on consecutive nights, and it was your turn today, and you didn't go see it. So, I mean, what else are we supposed to talk about on this pod?
I know. I didn't see Deadpool. I had to move out of your place, although I didn't get you hooked on coffee while I was there. I did, however, introduce you to arguably my favorite meal, tuna hot sauce, which is just superb. It's great.
It's absolutely disgusting.
It's amazing. For those that don't know, all you do is literally open a can of tuna, drain it, put a couple drops of hot sauce in it, and eat it. And it is just a fantastic meal.
All right, that's enough. We're trying to gain followers. Justin, how's it going, man?
Going well. I'm glad I don't live in the same state as you guys. John eats like a homeless transient over there.
I eat like a homeless person, and
it looks like a canned tuna in the backpack that he moved to Colorado in. And then we got Jay Sean. He eats like a 5-year-old. He goes to Starbucks. He orders a caramel apple cider and a cake pop.
All right. Cake pops are good. I dare anybody to say that cake pops are bad. And yeah, this is my dinner tonight. I got some Reese's. I mean, I don't know. You guys just eat weird, and it's fine.
It's not exaggerated either, by the way. Like living with you for a week, like the way you portray yourself in eating meals, it's no joke. Like you eat one thing per day, and it's usually a bag of rips, and then you're done.
Rips are good, yeah. No, I'm brutally honest about what I eat, but let's stop talking about that, and especially your nasty hot sauce tuna. Although with the DraftKings hot sauce, it wasn't too bad.
Not bad. We can get a sponsor going for DraftKings hot sauce.
Nice little flavor.
Unlimited hot sauce tuna.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into the slate. What do you got for us, John?
We start with the Grizzlies visiting the Cavaliers. Cavs are 10-point favorites, total of 203.5.
All right, yeah, so injuries on the Memphis side. They're on a back-to-back as well. We've seen Tony Allen sit a few games out, but he's actually hopeful to play on Monday with a sore left knee injury. And then Chris Anderson, Birdman, left the game today with a shoulder injury and was questionable to return but never returned. So we'll consider him questionable for this one. And then on the Cavs side, we got no notable injuries. So with the 10-point spread, the Grizz on back-to-back, kind of two slow-paced teams especially, good defenses for both lately. It's kind of not a good spot to really target cash plays, especially, and tournament plays are even kind of limited here as well. I mean, the one guy who stands out to me who I'd consider in cash here is probably LeBron, who's had great consistency ever since Ty Lue stepped in. So is there anyone else we're looking at here tournament-wise? Any favorite plays?
Yeah, I'm totally off Memphis here, especially. They concern me anyways because, especially with Mike Conley, he doesn't play full minutes, and you add on a really tough matchup, the 10-point spread, then I'm totally off Mike Conley, totally off Zebo. I can see, maybe some dart throw exposure to like Chalmers. If this one gets out of hand, he might see like 27, 28, 29 minutes off the bench potentially. But even that's kind of thin. On the Cavs side, yeah, LeBron is probably more GPP for me. I don't think you have to risk it in this spot. And, the addition of Tony Allen, bolsters the perimeter defense of Memphis even further. And I don't know. I don't think this is a spot where, we're going to see the Cavs trio play heavy minutes and really have to. And the slow pace kind of turns me off, with them. So, I think if I'm looking somewhere, it might be, Kyrie. He technically has the best opposing plus-minus of plus 1.03 points here. But that's kind of thin. What do you think, John?
Yeah, this is an island game, first of all, for the Cavs, so we don't have to worry about the surprise Tyronn Lue rest that he dropped on us with Kevin Love. But as for GPP with Grizzlies, first of all, I kind of like JaMychal Green, only tournament, obviously, as long as Chris Anderson is out, just because they have no one else they could play at center. Brendan Wright clearly out. Marc Gasol clearly out. But JaMychal Green, 24 minutes last game, he could be an option. And for the Cavs, as you said, LeBron, more of a tournament play. J.R. Smith, the Grizzlies have struggled against shooting guards without Tony Allen, but I mean, J.R. Smith's the rough going cash with Tony Allen back. So
yeah, I agree. And real quick, I want to touch up on you guys' thoughts on this new Cavs small ball lineup with Kevin Love at the 5, and we see Shumpert get a few minutes. Does he offer any intrigue? I mean, I know it's really hard to go back to the well and expect another 16 rebound game for Shump, but does he have upside here with that small ball lineup?
I mean, technically with the minutes, but he's always been a poor, like, per minute producer, and one game sample isn't enough to sway me, especially in this spot. It's not one I'm looking to go after at all. Maybe if they're playing kind of an up-tempo team with a higher total, then I'd look towards it. But
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I'd still be more focused on Kyrie in tournaments, if anything, especially with the lower price point at FanDuel. I believe he has a bargain rating of 90% over there. So,
all right.
But we can go ahead and move on. Let's get on to Timberwolves at the Hornets. Hornets are favored by 9.5 points, and this total is 211.5.
Yeah, another near double-digit spread here. Injuries on the Wolves side, we got Kevin Garnett with a sore right knee. I don't think he's ever coming back, personally. Nemanja Bjelica with a sprained right foot, who's been out for a good amount of time, is hopeful to return sometime this week, so we'll definitely monitor that. And then Nikola Pekovic is still out indefinitely with a foot injury. On the Hornets side, we got Spencer Hawes, who's been sidelined with a strained lower back. He's confirmed out for this one?
Yeah, I believe.
Okay. He got some shots up, but I mean, not in like full practice mode. So I'd be really surprised if he played in this one. So kind of same old for the Hornets here.
Yeah. So on the Minnesota side, I think the narrative should be. I mean, you're looking at one thing is the minutes, and what will Sam Mitchell do, especially after a couple of games ago we saw the debacle with Karl-Anthony Towns. I mean, anytime you can play Dominic Rudez and Tayshaun Prince, you kind of have to do it. It doesn't matter if you got talented young guys on the wing. You got to give those vets their minutes. And Greg Smith, you got a snap call.
Throw him
in right away and make him a featured person in your rotation.
I don't know why Cat starts over Greg Smith, really. It's bizarre to me. So.
Yeah, and Adrian Payne should be starting over Gorgie Jang. Tayshaun should be starting over, Levine, and maybe they bring Andre Miller back.
I was going to say, they never should have let go of Andre Miller.
You're giving Sam Mitchell ideas. I don't like this because he will take those into account.
He would. He has. Well, so we'll see. With this Wolves team with this 9.5 point spread, I'm going to be cautious with most of these guys in cash. I think Levine is really the only guy that stands out to me, especially on FanDuel, because he's kind of locked into big minutes regardless, just because they don't have anybody really to play over him. Unless they want to throw out Tayshaun Prince for double-digit minutes, which Sam Mitchell hasn't really done. They don't really have the depth to do it. They're kind of like hamstrung in the backcourt right now. Rubio, Tyus Jones at point guard, then shooting guard's kind of abyss a little bit after Levine. So he's kind of the only guy here I really feel solid about playing in cash, especially on FanDuel.
Which seems crazy, especially given Towns and Jang's consistency as of late. But yeah, Sam Mitchell strikes, and now we're all sort of worried about their minutes, which is concerning.
Yeah, I'm riding the Zach LaVine until it falls off the tracks. He's consistently underpriced. He went from 52. It was like 4,900 not even that long ago. 5,200. He's 5,500. Got to start two shooting guards. I don't love the spot for him. Their implied total isn't fantastic or anything, but I'm perfectly comfortable rolling him in cash at that price kind of until he busts, because his consistency in minutes and production has just been exactly what you look for in cash for underpriced guys. So he's really the only guy. My favorite tournament player is probably Cat.
Yeah.
And then I don't mind some Rubio exposure. The 211 total, if they keep this game close, could bring some goodness for sure. So I think having a piece of some of these guys is fine, but overall it's kind of Levine, kind of cash player, and Cat with the upside there.
Yeah, and I think you can take some shots at Shabazz Muhammad too if this one gets out of hand. I think he has this kind of coming off the bench, some upside with the minutes there potentially if this one does kind of end up with the Hornets covering. He's kind of the guy that kind of intrigues me if you're looking a little deeper on the Wolves.
Moving over to the Hornets, though, if I may, really quick. No team, actually, with Zach LaVine logging these additional minutes and his struggles on the defensive side of the ball of note, no team has allowed more DraftKings points to shooting guards in the last 10 games than Minnesota, which means Batum's price point at FanDuel is certainly cash-worthy. Certainly.
Agreed. I mean, him and Kemba are the guys you're looking at here. Kemba has absolutely been destroying as of late. I think he's been at like 50 DK points over the last 3 games. And yeah, I think he'll see enough run in this one to definitely be on radars for cash. He's still, I think can you check his bar grade? I think his bar grade is a lot more generous on drafting.
Yeah. He's 8K on DK. I think in this game with their implied team total and the way he's been playing, I'm not going to really overthink that. And I'm definitely going to try really hard to get him in cash on DK.
Yeah.
8K is just too cheap. He's 8,700 on FanDuel, where I still wouldn't mind him.
Right.
Yeah, and Minnesota actually has been, Rubio has a good rep, but they've allowed a opposing plus minus of plus 1.95 points to opposing guys. So, like this spot, like this total, like how Kemba's playing, so all the pieces really come together. And, yeah, John mentioned Batum. I think he's really
but Batum's picking it up. He's back. And then, the Wolves over the last 10 games have a defensive efficiency of 26th in the league. So, overall, their defense is just crippled, and it's really bad. So, I look definitely to target Batum on FanDuel and Kemba on DraftKings out of this team.
Yeah, and if looking for tournament plays, it's not the greatest of opponent plus minuses, like only 0.18 allowed to power forwards. But I do like Marvin Williams in tournaments just a bit as well, especially given his recent surge.
I really thought you were going to say Courtney Lee, and I was going to shut the pot off.
You were just upset from the one time I cashed Courtney Lee, and I won, by the way.
That's more disgusting than hot sauce tuna, man.
He scored 4 fewer points than Bradley Beal that night. It's okay. I survived.
You survived barely, yeah.
That was a short slate, too, so not as bad.
Yeah. It was a degen slate. It was certainly I should not have been playing.
Take the money, leave your dignity.
This is what happens when you're living with Jay. Like, all you do is eat candy and play these 2-game slates.
Hey, I got to pay for the candy somehow.
All right, well, another rough matchup for both sides. Spurs at the Pacers. Spurs are favored by 6.5 points, total of 196.5, lower one.
Yeah, not a great spot, of course. Most Spurs games are not good spots to target. So last game we saw LaMarcus Aldridge, Tim Duncan, and Danny Green all sit out with, I think, 15 minutes before lock. So we had a lot of
disaster. What a disaster.
A lot of my opponents played Aldridge or Green or both. So, I mean, that's the advantage to having kind of our push notifications and our Twitter feed handy. And even without just being at your computer or aware of what's going on 15 minutes before lineup slot, just combing through your players, making sure they're all playing, which is something, especially at this point in the season, that you really want to do.
Because if you aren't at your computer, don't worry, we are, and we're constantly yelling at each other in Skype, trying to get everything accomplished by lineup lock.
Yeah, and so all these guys are expected to play. Green, Duncan, Aldridge, we can expect back in this one. On the Pacers side, we got CJ Miles, who's been out with the strained left calf, is questionable to play in this one. And Joseph Young with bruised right knee, I don't think he's played in a bit.
Yeah, he's been out of the rotation.
Yeah, so irrelevant pretty much. But, so, I mean, we've seen Kawhi offer immense value. He's been underpriced. He's 8,600 on FanDuel. He's had great matchups as of late. This isn't what I would call a great matchup. But are you still willing to kind of go him in cash at kind of a soft price? He's 8,200 is all on DraftKings.
I would, and he's very consistent, and you kind of know what kind of range you're getting with him, and low to mid 40s on FanDuel is pretty safe with Kawhi, and you're not relying solely on offense. I mean, he has become a much better, well-rounded offensive player this season. His post-up game, his pull-up jumper has all improved, but with him, you're getting the rebounds, the steals, the stat stuffing potential, and he'll find a way to impact the game and the box score no matter what the opponent. So I think he's fairly matchup proof for me, and I'm not particularly worried about this spot. I think he's still an elite option on FanDuel at his position. Going beyond that, I'm good with some exposure to LaMarcus Aldridge and GPPs. I'm not really rolling Duncan back. Just too concerned with the minutes there. And I haven't quite seen the upside enough. He's had some big lines here and there, but for kind of the love we've given him in the past as a GPP play, he hasn't come through most of the time just because he's playing close to 20 minutes, which is really hard for him to crush value at that spot. Looking at the Spurs here, John, is there anyone else you're looking at? There's kind of split at point guard with Tony Parker, Patty Mills, Danny Green. Any of you guys interest you at all?
Yeah, Tony Parker had that huge surge, and then just 2 games ago got yanked for defensive issues like 2 minutes into the game, and it was all Patty Mills from there. Now over his last 3 games, he's averaged just over 15 DraftKings points. I think I'm fine in tournaments with Tony Parker. I mean, it is obviously a boom or bust play. Like Indiana is just bad against backcourts in general. Like opponent plus minus of plus 2.68 at his position. So it is strictly a tournament play. But as far as that goes, yeah, only Parker, and I'm fine with Leonard and Cash.
Yeah, so on the Pacers side, facing the Spurs, we generally don't want anything to do with. Paul George is only 8,100 on DraftKings, but you just can't. It's not worth it to go him against Kawhi, in my opinion. Kawhi himself is only 100 more, so choosing between those two, I think it's pretty clear. You go Kawhi. The plus minus is minus 6.64 for Paul George going against Kawhi there, so not a good spot for any of these guys really on the Pacers.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest, the worst opposing plus minuses that we have in our database is opposing small forwards against Kawhi, which makes a lot of sense. And, PG actually, he's been crushing lately, 50 DK points over the last 4 games, averaging. And, yeah, but, his ownership is going to be minuscule. But the thing is, like, what is his realistic upside in this one? And what can he actually do against Kawhi? Maybe he, can score 26, 28, real life points, but what are the peripherals going to be?
He'd really have to hit the steals,
right.
blocks, pick up some dimes. I mean, it's feasible. So, I don't mind. Yeah, with an expected low ownership here, I think you can have some tournament exposure, but I would definitely be very, very light.
Yeah, he's definitely not like LeBron against Paul George. Just went for 48, 49 the other night. But I mean, obviously Paul George isn't likely going to reach that peak. Very, very little if you want him in tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, though, what do we think about Monta Ellis? Danny Green is back, which makes this matchup tougher, but he's averaged 33 DraftKings points last 5 games. He's been really good as of late.
He has been really solid. I like the Spurs defense. We got them all back. We're going to have the expected starting 5 that's very good defensively, especially with Duncan down low. So Monte kind of penetrating and driving to the rim, I'm not really high on in this one. His 3-point shooting is bad anyway, so I don't like the upside here, or at least the frequency of him hitting upside, his ceiling, you could say. So I think, I'm probably not going to have much exposure, if any at all.
So outside of Kawhi, basically just a lot of tournament plays. With that, we can gladly move on to a juicy one. Bucks at the Bulls. Bulls are favored by 6 points, a total of 208.
Yeah, definitely juicier than the last few games. On the Bucks side for injuries, we got Michael Carter-Williams. We can consider questionable. He sat out the last few with left patella tendonitis. He's also dealing with a sore left hip. And then John Henson with that sore lower back, who has just not been, not played in a long time, we can consider doubtful, if not, basically ruled out in this one. And then on the Bulls side, we got some big news. Cameron Barstow with a lower back injury is questionable.
The largest of news, just the hugest
on the entire slate. So, yeah, Bucks are on a back-to-back. We've seen these guys stabilized minutes, very consistent.
So let me jump in real quick here. I just pulled up the injury report for the Bucks, and Michael Carter-Williams and John Henson are ruled out. Yeah.
All right, cool. So same as the last few games for us here. So, yeah, on the Bucks side, I mean, really it's Jabari Parker's just been so underpriced on FanDuel, and he's $6K again. So I think
Chicago.
Yeah, and this is a juicy spot. So totally fine rolling him in cash. Don't want to overthink it. Just kind of look through his game log even. And just
big minutes.
The minutes he's been playing, the production. I mean, he actually looked really good today too. He had some very nice plays. Giannis, triple-double machine. Chris Middleton is playing more minutes, I think, than anybody in the league over the last month. So it's still the same, these three guys. We do have Jimmy Butler back to the Bulls. Obviously, their team defense has been very poor lately, especially with Butler out. So I think I'd move with Middleton at his price, especially on FanDuel. I'd say as a tournament only. On DK, you could maybe talk yourself into cash. But with that matchup, I'm willing to put him as tournament. And then I'm fine with Giannis and cash at this point. His floor is really, really high. And then
his ceiling is 60 plus too.
I mean, it's as high as almost anyone. Yeah.
Yeah. In the write-up Sunday morning, quote unquote, I was the one who committed the crime in writing that you didn't need him, and then he went out and scored 69, I think it was, just absurd. And 53 drafting points over his last 5 games, a line of 20, 11, and 8 and 2 steals. Just right now, I mean, it's like Alex Lynn territory. Unless he's 10K, I'm paying for him. I don't give a damn.
How did you not get fired for saying you don't need Giannis?
I don't know. We need to talk to my boss. Where is he?
Seriously.
It's a big reveal at the end. You're jumping
what a disaster that would be.
But yeah, we'll fire you on air live. Giannis, his floor is super high because he's basically playing point guard right now. He brings up the ball every single possession. You kind of can really see when you watch him, the shift in his mindset where he's like, I'm going to take control of possession. Middleton, he has scored a lot, but he's sitting in the corner at the start of a lot of possessions while Giannis is initiating a lot of the action, really taking a hold of things and being very assertive in general. And definitely that shift in mindset. We had a really good quote, talking about you put a bigger player on me, I'm just going to use my quickness and blow by him. You put a smaller player on me, I'm going to take him right to the post and dominate him there. So this mindset that he has is really showing through in his the big lines that we've been seeing lately. Yeah,
and it's no surprise. He's had the skills since he came to the league. Ever since his first few games, you could even see his upside there with his length. So him and Kawhi are the same price on DraftKings. They're both 8,200. Do you guys both lean Giannis and cash?
In this matchup, I do.
Yeah, I lean him too because I think Giannis's ceiling is higher. I think their median projections are similar, in the 40s on FanDuel. But Giannis has that triple double potential right now. He's playing out of his mind. So I pay for that ceiling.
And tournament exposure only on the Bucks. Just want to get this out before I get fired. Jared Bayless is still extremely cheap on FanDuel, and it's a great matchup. Chicago really bad against point guards, unlike shooting guards where Jimmy Butler usually defends. So I don't mind Jared Bayless in tournaments only at FanDuel, not DraftKings.
Okay. And then I think we got to talk obviously about Greg Monroe getting a really soft matchup here with Powell. Huge upside off the bench. Definitely like him a lot as a tournament play.
Agreed.
Yeah, the highest opponent plus minus of this slate allowed to centers Greg Monroe will be facing. So the matchup is in the argument, and he's getting 32 minutes without John Henson, even though Miles Plumlee continues to start ahead of him. So yeah, certainly a tournament play.
Yeah, plus opposing plus minus of plus 7.22. That's even more positive than Kawhi's negative. So it tells you a lot about how soft this Bulls interior defense is.
And so what about for the Bulls for everyone? Because Butler obviously returned last game, and when they said no restrictions, obviously they weren't kidding. 34 minutes, stuffed the stat sheet, and he looked good actually in his return.
Yeah, Jimmy would have played even more if he didn't foul out. I mean, he picked up a foul late and had to throw Rose back in there, even though he hurt his tailbone. So I think if Butler didn't foul out, I think he could have played a couple more minutes on top of that. So. Yeah, these restrictions are off. Cash or G. Are we cashing any of these guys?
I'm not really. With all of them healthy now, and you got Dunleavy in the mix, you got Mirotic back. Butler's price didn't really drop or anything, so I think they're just a bunch of tournament plays collectively. You pick and choose your spots here. We saw Taj also play 38 minutes in his first game back. I actually think he is on their injury report list as probable with the hamstring.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. So he's probable.
And without Cameron Bairstow, I mean, they're just going to fall apart anyways, right? Like,
there's no way. Yeah, I mean, the line is an absolute joke. Bulls -6 without Cameron. Kill a Cam there. So I am not really looking at anyone in cash on this Bulls team. I definitely like them individually as tournament plays. It's more of just kind of reaching for that ceiling. If one of them kind of has to step up, and the guys you're looking at, of course, are Derrick Rose, Jimmy Butler, and Pau Gasol here. So I do like the upside that Pau has, especially. We've seen him have massive games lately, so I wouldn't mind him in tournament exposure. And then, yeah, Butler, the guy will never be on a minutes restriction, so he has to have tournament exposure as well.
I like Pau. Pau's my preferred tournament option. I think if he plays anywhere near 34 to 36 minutes in this one, he is going to post a huge line. Yeah. And I love targeting. Obviously, the Bulls' front court is bad, but the Bucks' front court as well. Mm-hmm. Their defense is not good either. And Pau played 38 minutes on in their last game. So
I had recorded a team high usage, 33.9.
Right, and that was with Mirotic back too. So I thought Pau would play a lot less. I thought his minutes would be like 32, 33 with Taj, Mirotic, and Bobby Portis in the mix. We played 38. So if he does have that minutes upside, then I definitely want some exposure to him in tournaments.
Agree completely. And the next game we have, this is the one we'll probably spend the longest on, actually. Kings at Pelicans. Pelicans, a minuscule -1.5 favorites and a total of 220.
Yeah,
largest of the slate.
Yeah, this is what we're looking for on this slate for sure, especially kind of a moderate 7-game slate here. So injuries on the Kings side, as usual, you got Rondo and Rudy Gay listed as probable. I'm considering them both playing. Rondo with 3 injuries, but turf toe I think is the one that's bugging him the most. And then Rudy Gay with that strained right shoulder. So they're both probable. And then we got Kosta Koufis with food poisoning, which must have been pretty nasty food poisoning. I know what he ate. He had hot sauce tuna. So he's questionable. And then Seth Curry is questionable with a sprained right foot. On the Pelicans side, we got Eric Gordon, who is the new Anthony Davis. He's just the most injury-prone guy in the league, I think, at this point. Fractured right ring finger, so he'll be out some time, couple months. Alexis Ajinça is out with a fractured sternum. I saw he was questionable with a fractured sternum.
Yeah, that sounds fun. That sounds minor.
Yeah, they're just nah, man, you're good. Just go in there, And then
I can't believe they're actually just listing him as out.
I don't get it. Maybe I'll just fracture my sternum and I can still pod. I'm sure
you can still eat candy. You'll be fine.
I'd hope so. And then we got Norris Cole questionable with a lower back injury, and then a huge one here, Luke Babbitt, questionable with a left shin contusion. So kind of a decent amount of injuries, but really I don't think anything that will swing the pendulum. I think Norris Cole is probably the guy. Given the statuses of all these injuries, I think Norris Cole is the one we kind of want to look for. I'm assuming Rondo and Gay will play. They've been on the injury report a decent amount lately as probable and always play. So, so where do you start? Rondo, definitely like on DK.
You got to start with Boogie.
Probably have to.
I was going to close with Boogie. It's it's the dessert of this game. So, anyways, back to Rondo.
Like John being fired, being the dessert.
Yeah, exactly.
That is not a tasty dessert.
See, now you're getting it. Yeah. Rondo 8K on DK. He is always at the top of our models on DK, and we look and we're like, do we even like Rondo that much? And then you're just like, well, his floor is 40, and then you add in this matchup, this total, this poor defense, the Pelicans. I'm completely fine with Rondo, especially on this slate, this close spread, this high total. Rondo on DK cash, I think, is plenty fine. And then, obviously, Boogie is for sure a very strong cash play.
Yeah, Boogie's probably the top cash game play of this slate. Love targeting Pelicans center, opposing centers. So, and I think, moving beyond this team, beyond those 2 obvious plays, I think we're looking at just kind of 2 guys to close things out, that being Darren Collison and Rudy Gay. And Collison probably, going to be slept on quite a bit. And it's a way to get really cheap exposure to this game. And, opposing plus minus of plus 2.62 points for him. So I like him a lot, and he's been playing minutes, like starters minutes, pretty much. So he's probably my preferred option, to Rudy Gay, if I want to get some GPP exposure here.
Yeah, as you had mentioned, Rondo, obviously, like Rondo, Dirk, and Frank Gore will always be at the top of our models usually at DraftKings. Just always underpriced every single day. But DeMarcus Cousins averaging a line of 29 and 11, 53 DraftKings points against the Pelicans in 2 games this year. I think lineup construction basically begins with him tonight, whatever.
Yeah, definitely, strong cash play on both sides. Someone I'm, really trying hard to get there. And then on the Pelican side, it's a great matchup for them. Kings are 27th in the league in defense efficiency over their last 10. They're horrible on the entire season. And they play at a very fast pace. So this is good, especially now that we have Eric Gordon out, which is bad for him, but good for us. So we got Drew Holiday. Finally. I kept a running tab of people asking us why Drew isn't starting when we say the starting lineup with whoever's starting, And I think it was 42 games in a row he didn't start. And Alvin Gentry said that Drew is going to pick up the start, or leaning towards him at least. So obviously Drew is back in our lives as a strong cash play in this one. Who else are you kind of looking at on the Pelican side in cash? I mean, obviously Anthony Davis strong, but especially on DraftKings, it's kind of, pick one or the other.
Yeah, it's got to be Norris Cole. I want at least some GPP exposure to Norris Cole, and I think you can argue him in cash as well.
Mm-hmm.
You look at Eric Gordon, kind of take him out of the mix, and you're adding guys like Alonzo G and Dante Cunningham and Tony Douglas, and guys who are not very good, and especially with like G, who don't shoot. You just stand there and pull a I don't know. There's a long list of guys who play a lot of minutes and don't put up any fantasy production.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think Norris Cole will definitely have to be a little bit more aggressive. He'll need to play quite a lot of minutes, especially with Drew shifting over to shooting guard.
Yeah.
Norris Cole is kind of locked into, I'd say, 34, 35 minutes, presuming he's healthy. So you can argue him in cash. I'm fine with Norris Cole in cash, and it's a good way, like Collison, to get exposure to this game without having to pay an exorbitant amount of money, with a Boogie or a Ron.
Yeah, agree. And the price is very soft and friendly on both sides, which kind of breaking down the slate, you're going to need some guys like that to afford the Boogie and some of these other top price guys.
Whether Norris Cole starts or not, though, considering he's questionable, like Drew Holiday all the way for me. Like it's going to be Holiday, DeMarcus Cousins, lock, figure out the rest around them. Like those are the 2 biggest plays for me.
Agreed. And it's great to have Drew in our lives. He's like a per minute stud, probably up there with like one of the highest, probably DK points per minute out of anybody. I mean,
behind Mo Buckets. Behind
Mo Buckets. Mo Buckets, of course. I can't forget the biggest shooting guard in the league. So Drew, it starts and ends with Drew, especially if he's going to play shooting guard, especially against Sacramento. That's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Can't get really any better of a spot for him than this. Right. More usage with Eric Gordon, got more minutes, soft matchup, big total. Love it.
Yeah, so a lot of guys to consider, a lot of exposure to be had in this game in cash and in tournament. Another guy I really like in tournament here is Ryan Anderson.
He torched the Kings last time they played him. I remember this because I played Willie Cauley-Stein in cash that day, and he got yanked because Ryan Anderson was torching him so badly. And I think we got to see like Quincy Acey or someone, and I was super tilted the entire time. But Ryan Anderson, he's definitely going to go under the radar. The concern with him is and has been minutes. He hasn't been seeing a lot of minutes. I think he's actually seen 20.2 minutes per game over the last 3, if I'm mistaken. And I probably won't project him for more than like 25, 26. He just hasn't been seeing a ton. But if he does end up getting hot, if they do end up rolling, I don't know, smaller lineups for some reason with him more, then he can bomb and pick up.
Yeah, Kings just can't defend the 3. And then you look at, if for people who are kind of like game log hunting and look at Ryan Anderson's recent production, he just came off games against the Jazz and the Spurs. So 2 games where he's not needed as much for kind of defensive liability for one, and then, good all-around defenses. So I like the upside, getting a piece of this game at kind of a low ownership for a sneaky play here.
And as Justin had just mentioned, last game against the Kings, over 40 minutes, 36 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. Just absurd.
So we pretty much like everybody in this game except for Kendrick Perkins.
Yeah, and if Luke Babbitt plays, a little bit of exposure.
And if Luke Babbitt and Cameron Bairstow ever meet, the world will just basically explode.
Probably. All right, let's keep it moving. What's the next game we got?
We got a little revenge maybe from the offseason. I don't know. Clippers at the Mavericks. Clippers favorites of 4 points, a total of 210.
I'm all about these revenge games. I love them. I can't get enough of them. So, yeah. On the injury side for the Clippers, we got Luke Mbamute is ruled out with a left eyelid laceration. And then on the Mavs side, we got no injuries. So, pretty friendly total here. Mavs are on a back-to-back. Clips on the road. So, you kind of look at the Clippers and you start with the 2 guys who are really strong options most any night, especially with Blake Griffin out in Chris Paul and DeAndre Jordan. I like both in cash. I think Chris Paul is really hard to kind of get on this slate with the 220 total. You want Boogie, you want Drew, or you want pieces of these guys in juicier games, juicier matchups. So I think Chris Paul sets up for a nice tournament play, especially if this game keeps close with the 4-point spread. I love Chris Paul in close games. So I'm more fine rolling DeAndre in cash than Chris Paul relative to their price points and position kind of scarcity.
I don't know if it means anything at all. Like, it might not mean a damn thing, but these 2 games I'm about to mention were with Blake Griffin as well. But Chris Paul in 2 games against the Mavericks this season, 10 points, 2 rebounds, 8 assists. Those were his averages. So like I said, it could mean nothing at all. But I look into those things a little bit. So I am slightly worried if speaking of cash.
It's a small sample size theater. I do like this spot a lot for the Clippers, just with the Mavs coming on the second leg of a back-to-back, coming off an overtime game too. Went to extras with Denver on Sunday, and we might actually be looking at, I don't know, we'll see if Carlisle and the Mavs rest anybody.
Yeah, they definitely could.
I think that's definitely something we have to monitor. And in that case, the spread would obviously balloon from the 4 points it is currently, which makes CP3, even DeAndre, more elite tournament plays than anything. I do like CP3 quite a bit. The point guard defense for Dallas isn't really stout. And I rolled Moutier in cash on Sunday, and, he ended up doing really well. And I can see, Chris Paul coming in here and taking advantage of the spot as well. So, like Jay Sean mentioned, tough to realistically fit these guys in, given who else we're targeting. So, elite tournament options, probably realistically.
Yeah, and DeAndre's 7,600 on DK at center, so I think it's a bit softer there. I don't think I'd seriously consider him in cash on FanDuel, but I would take a hard look at him on DK.
And what about their small forward position without Mbamute? Because, Jay, you even called it, actually. You said that Wesley Johnson would log more time against the Thunder because he had to defend Durant, and he logged 30 minutes against the Thunder and then played 17 minutes the next night because Jeff Green came back into the rotation. So is Chandler Parsons the way he's been playing lately? Do we think that's obviously he's not Durant. Let's calm down a bit before I get fired there. But
again, you might as well just say it because.
But I think there's a chance he might receive a little bit of the same treatment. Like, Jeff Green might not play 32 minutes, what he's been averaging.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is kind of, you just go deeper and look at Jeff Green as a player and how streaky he is, and that could help change the minutes with Green and Wes Johnson. If Green starts off playing decent, he's focused, he plays defense. He's the type of player where he can get yanked quick. He can start out 0 for 5 and lose interest. So it's kind of you're taking a risk either way. So, Jeff Green to me is nothing more than tournament play in this spot. His minutes could vary, his production, his shooting. Everything. He's like the primary example of a tournament player. So I like the upside that he has still, I think. So I don't mind some tournament exposure to him. But, yeah, at this point, I think it's too risky to go cash for him.
For the Mavericks, it would obviously depend on who sits out where we have our exposure. But David Lee, They're kind of finding, because Rick Carlisle, the wizard he is, they're finding a nice little spot in the rotation for him.
Yeah, I mean, but he's feasted against two like Denver spots. Those have been his biggest games so far. And you're looking at DeAndre Jordan here. I think it requires more of the traditional big man with Zaza Pachulia. So I think we'll see Zaza play closer to maybe 27, 28 here, which limits David Lee's upside in this spot. I do like the way David Lee's been playing. Been very aggressive with that second unit, double potential, obviously. But I'm kind of cooling my interest in him for this spot. I don't think it's quite the greatest spot to look.
If Dirk sits, Dirk played in the overtime tonight. What does that do for David Lee? I don't think he'll start. I think it might be Charlie V possibly drawing that start, but Lee picking up more minutes off the bench. He's 4,500 on FanDuel. Would that kind of interest you as a viable cheap play on this slate that's pretty tough to find value?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you take out Dirk from the equation, then they'll need some more offense, and they'll have to look for David Lee to kind of take in a little bit of that usage and take in that role. Because Zaza definitely not built to take on that offensive role. So in that situation, yes, then I flip flop, and I am very interested in David Lee as a
part. So the Mavs, these injuries, if they rest anyone, will probably play a big role in this slate. I like usually I recommend kind of thinking of it as both ways and kind of planning a lineup with David Lee, perhaps if Dirk sits off an overtime game on a back-to-back, or planning a lineup assuming Dirk's playing and they're all playing, but kind of mess around with the possibility that off an overtime back-to-back, some of these guys can sit.
John, Dirk is the only one that's like a realistic candidate to sit, right? I don't think we're expecting like Wes Matthews to sit anymore, right? We're kind of too deep.
No, even with all of his minutes, clearly that restriction was lifted like last month. They don't care about his minutes at all. But Dirk, they've even said that back-to-backs basically going to be immediately out after the next game, like definitely.
All right, so you're saying that there's a very good chance that you think that Dirk is going to be rested.
I would say we should definitely plan for it. And even if Pachulia were to start, which is what I'm assuming, I wouldn't run away from David Lee, especially in tournaments. Like 1.3 FanDuel points in every performance with the Mavericks. Like he's still a good tournament play, especially at his price.
Yeah, and David Lee came up as a power forward, so I think he'll definitely play a lot of minutes at the 4, regardless if it's Charlie V or whoever it is.
Yeah, if Dirk's out, I'm fine rolling David Lee in cash. We have not been over too many guys that are cheap, so
let me toss this around, because I don't think it'll be. I don't think if Dirk sits that they'll start Charlie V. I think they'll start Parsons at the 4 and start Raymond Felton. I think that's probably the realistic projection. Yeah. So are we interested in Felton at all if he's playing locked in kind of like for 30-plus minutes?
Felton, let's see here, 4,500 at FanDuel, looking it up real quick, and 4,200 at DraftKings. I'm okay with that, definitely at DraftKings.
DK.
That he can fill the stat sheet as well.
Yeah, they still got Devin Harris. They still got JJ Barea. So it's not as appealing. I think if Darren plays as well and Parsons, Parsons brings the ball up a decent amount. I don't think Felton jumps into a spot where we've seen in the past with more guys sit out than just Dirk. He could pick up the start here, but yeah, I'd lean him more kind of on DK at 4,200, where you're more in need of saving money as well.
Yeah, and to be fair, he has played 27.7 minutes over the last 2 games and only averaged 13.6 DK points. So he has been playing pretty big minutes in these smaller lineups and hasn't been really that productive.
And if Villanueva just does happen to get the start, if Dirk is out, I don't want to go on record like Jay, like he's the Anthony Davis whisperer. We all know that. I don't want to be the Dirk whisperer. But if he is out, you're not playing Villanueva anyways.
No.
You're gonna see the check mark. It's gonna say Charlie Villanueva set to start, but avoid it. Do not pay attention to it.
Yep, fade.
Yep, run away from Charlie V.
So with that, we have only one more game on this slate, and it's a big one. It is the Orlando Magic going to the are they now called the Lakers since they lost to them, or how does this work?
Yeah, we've been disbanded. Break up the Warriors. Today was embarrassing. But to be fair, I'd rather totally crumble and crap the bed to the Lakers than lose an actual game. to someone.
Yeah, a game that actually matters.
Yeah, so like I can totally write this game off because the Lakers are nobody. So we just played like absolutely trash today. So I don't know, man. It was rough, but I don't take the loss seriously because it came at the Lakers' hands.
And the funny thing about that loss is that it wasn't even like one person. Like it was a team effort of
just everybody. Like Clay couldn't hit a three. Everybody turned the ball over. I think Draymond had like 50 turnovers or something, and Brandon Rush might have been our best. I don't know. He was like once, like maybe not our worst player.
Yeah, and that's horrible in itself. So, yeah, injuries really quick on the Magic side. We got Victor Oladipo with a lower back contusion. Has said he'll play in this one, so we can expect him to return to the starting lineup with likely Hazonia going back to the bench here. And then on the Warriors side, we got Andrew Bogut, who left the game today for a bit, expects to play with a left knee contusion. And then Andre Iguodala with left hamstring tightness, who sat out the last few, is questionable for this one.
So the Warriors, 14.5-point favorites, a whopping total of 222.5 in this one. The question, Jay, that we need to ask ourselves is, as we both went in on Aaron Gordon, like I felt like we should have anyways, do we get Scott Skiles again?
Well, not
he
even
has an excuse. He has an excuse this time.
Who? I do?
Skiles.
Oh, Skiles. Yeah, I mean, it's just not a great spot, I don't think. For Gordon, it's tough to go any of these guys with the 14.5-point spread, but like we've seen the Warriors play pretty bad defense lately. And, these Magic guys are skilled offensively. They have upside. So I look at it more, I'm kind of filling in the positions as we go kind of, and I don't see a need to kind of go some of these Magic guys, especially with, we've seen a lot of value come up with Fournier out, Oladipo out, where you can go, whichever other guy is in out of the two, get some elf action with Oladipo out. You can get some Hazonia action and spot starts, and that's kind of gone right now. So Gordon's really the guy you look at, and it's tough. I mean, we've said it all along with Skiles this whole season, really. It's for cash games, you can't afford to get burned like that. It's really hard anyways winning cash games, like a 60% clip or 58 or whatever, that when you have a night where Aaron Gordon plays 16 minutes, just gets yanked like that, and you lose all your money, it's really hard to come back from. So for me personally, I don't like that risk of the downside there. So I look at these guys more as tournament plays.
I'm on complete team fade, and I think the Warriors will show up big for this one and cover that 14.5. I might even put some jelly beans on the line. We'll see. And yeah, there's really no reason to get here because we're worried about Magic minutes if the spread's 4.5.
Yeah.
We're messing around with the game where they're 14.5 point dogs. It just doesn't make any sense. I think we'll see a deep rotation.
Yeah.
We'll see Devin
Ilyasova logged 20 minutes again. I mean, it's just terrifying, really, for any of these Magic guys.
I agree in cash. However, Elfrid Payton, if you notice, I'm always on the opposite side of you two. Like, it's always like you are going to agree and then I'm going to get fired. But Elfrid Payton in tournaments, 33 DraftKings points last 4 games. I realize that it's been without Oladipo or without Fournier, but still, like, I don't think he loses his spot in the rotation at this point. Like, Hazonia's averaging 13 fewer minutes when coming off the bench as opposed to when he starts.
Well, it's not he's losing his spot. It's that Oladipo commands a lot of usage and ball handling in these games. So with him out, obviously Elf is the guy I think who gains the most value. But, yeah, we never said that these guys weren't good tournament plays. I like getting exposure. I think you look at this total and you look at the Warriors' defense, they can definitely put up some points here. So I'm fine having some tournament exposure to Elf, to Depot, and to Vooch as well. These are guys that have high volume, high usage rates. They can put up a solid line in an under-owned game with the spread. So
the worst part about all of this is that we were so close to a consistent rotation with Skiles. Like, we were 5 games deep into it. And then Jay had to go make a bankroll video that Scott Skiles watched when he got pushed down and he got pissed off and started subbing in everyone.
Yeah, I don't think he was really happy with him, his portrayal in that video. But he did have a massive dunk. I mean, come on. It's pretty good.
He got his ass knocked down afterwards, but he did dunk quite nicely.
Not bad. So let's move on to the Warriors side. 14.5 spread. Obviously, they're going to be a little bit angry after this embarrassing loss to the Lakers. I think Steph Curry is a great cash play. I definitely expect him to have a strong game, but, at a more expensive price than Bogey or some of these other guys, it's kind of hard to go Curry and cash here.
Yeah, I agree. I think realistically, this is kind of the same thing with Chris Paul. And we talked about, like, if you're putting rosters together, like, you're not fading. It's really hard to fade that Sacramento game just as a whole. And I think John, okay. The lights went out over there on John's end, so I think we're good. But
I'm here. You're good. I'm here. It's fine. I have new internet at the house. I'm good. Don't worry.
All right. And one thing I want to discuss is Curry versus CP3. Who do we prefer in tournaments as the preferred option here?
I got Curry. Yeah, for sure.
I think I have CP3.
You're fired, man. You're getting
just
fired.
Hear me out. I feel like I'm making good cases at least before I lose my job. Just like today when Curry was a clear fade against the Lakers, with this big spread, I just fear there's real blowout potential here. Real blowout potential.
Well, there is. That's why we're comparing tournament play. You're looking for who has more upside.
But like, even if Dirk were to sit, like Rick Carlisle could easily work his magic and see them compete against the Clippers in a close game, which would mean CP3 plays more minutes. What magic does Scott Skiles have, I guess is what I'm asking, besides the one to piss us off?
Well, he's got all the talent. I mean, it's Scott Skiles limits these guys, in my opinion. I think if you just look at Chris Paul and Curry and their upside, I think it's Curry for me, especially coming off a Lakers loss here where he didn't play full minutes even.
Although I will say Paul probably has the higher ownership tomorrow night, right?
I don't know. I don't know about that, John. Yeah. I think Steph might be a little higher. And I get your point, John. I think it's close for sure.
I think it's real close.
Which is why I asked the question. But I will side with Steph just because I can see him having just a 20-point plus quarter or something just obscene. Like in his limited time, I think he can still do a lot of damage. Kind of the way we kind of see this game going and where that production is going to come from. I mean, Steph's going to pack the points in pretty heavy. So, especially if Dirk's out, there's kind of a little blow-up potential with the Clippers, and I think it's even further kind of leaning towards the Steph side of two. But I think if Dirk does play and the line stays around 4, then I can definitely see the argument for Chris Paul here.
Yeah, I like them both, a lot as tournament plays. And Chris Paul's 900 cheaper on DK, so that's where you could probably see a more even split in ownership or even leaning Chris Paul's way.
Yeah.
And but the thing is, too, both have been great. Like 41.8 DraftKings points for Chris Paul over the last month, 45.8 for Curry over the last month. Like, both have been amazing. So, yeah, it's going to be – it's a toss-up, yeah.
Yeah, they're good players. So let's look at the rest of this Warriors team. Who else do we kind of want exposure here? I like Clay a lot in this spot. I think, bounce back game for him at 7,200 on FanDuel. It's a bit more friendly here. Are you looking at anyone else in cash? I like the upside of Draymond as well in this one for tournaments.
I'll probably look to save at shooting guard personally. I don't think I'll end up paying up for Clay at all. And I faded him against the Lakers on Sunday, and against the Magic on a back.
It worked out too.
Yeah, I don't. Clay isn't usually a type of guy that I pay up for generally. I think I only pay up for him basically just because I don't like the other shooting guard options, and I want to pay up for like the floor. I don't ever kind of go in seeking to pay for Klay Thompson in cash.
Mm-hmm.
I think. I'll look at my roster construction tomorrow and the shooting guard options. If I end up liking, the guys out there, then, I don't see myself paying up for Clay.
Yeah, it just depends on roster construction tomorrow. Like, just looking at it off the top of my head, Batum, Levine, we have Chris Middleton, Andrew Wiggins. So, yeah, It really just depends. Right now, I can't see myself paying for them.
Yep, I'm with you guys there. Anything else from this game before we move on?
If you might get cute with Draymond, that's fine, but not a particularly strong tournament option, and not someone I feel like I have to have. I like him a lot more in kind of closer game spreads where because he's so he needs that all around stuff and really kind of get him
right.
And Harrison Barnes averaging 35 minutes without Iguodala, really cheap at FanDuel, 4,500, but still it's just a weird spot for small forwards in this one.
Yeah, it's kind of like you end up with like 4,500 left and you've maybe fit him in, and
then he has like 35 points once every month.
And I think Kerr said that they kind of were leaning towards holding Iguodala out on Monday possibly, just as a precaution. So maybe I can see it.
That's fine. All right, cool. That's the full slate breakdown. Let's go ahead and move on to the quick hits and go position by position on DraftKings and give you guys some tournament or cash plays. I'll go ahead and start this one off with point guard. Starting from the top, we got Steph Curry. We just broke down at 10-6, I think is definitely more of a tournament play. I think you are a little concerned about the 14.5-point spread as well as the price and the other high-priced players you can pay up for with a bit more safety. But strong tournament play, and kind of same goes for Chris Paul, who is 900 cheaper. Favorable matchup, a 4-point spread as of now, but if Dirk sits or any starters sit, really that line could move. Strong tournament play either way. Rajon Rondo, I really like in cash at 8K, but you also have the problem of Kemba, who we really like in cash at 8K again. And then you have another problem with Drew Holiday at 7,700, who's assumed to start. So, I think that's a really strong cash play as well. So you got three guys right there who are all really, really strong cash plays, and you're kind of going to have to pick your spot there. Kyrie, I think, is a small tournament play only. Conley, I wouldn't have too much exposure to against a tough Cleveland team. I think Derrick Rose, you can have some exposure to, but I prefer, Powell if you're going Bulls in tournaments. Rubio, I think is fine at 6,500 as a tournament play if that game stays close and kind of reaches that total or even over. Elfrid Payton at 5,700, I think is a decent tournament play, but I definitely like him more if Oladipo's out and he's in. So not as high on Elf in this one. Let's see, we got Norris Cole, 5K, I believe 4,900 FanDuel, I think is a strong cash play as well with Eric Gordon out and Drew getting the starting nod. We're expecting big minutes from Norris Cole here and obviously juicy matchup and high total. After that, I don't mind some Darren Collison exposure. You could see a bit more minutes in this one with Drew starting, kind of matching up there. And obviously the high total, getting a piece of this game, under-owned guy, overlooked. After that, you can kind of get cute with Mario Chalmers possibly, especially if that game turns into a blowout. I could see upwards of 28 minutes, put up some points there at 4,500. Jared Bayless definitely like as a tournament play with Michael Carter-Williams out. After that, I think, that's probably it for point guard there.
All right, I'll go ahead and take a shooting guard. We can go ahead and start from the top. Jimmy Butler, cheaper at DraftKings, 8.4, 8.7 at FanDuel. Not in cash, we're off of him there, but in tournaments, perfectly fine. Klay Thompson, only on him at FanDuel as long as you're willing to pay up for the potential floor. 7.5 at DraftKings, likely off of them. Chris Middleton, 7,500 DraftKings, perfectly fine at both sides. He's a great play in cash at shooting guard no matter what. Oladipo, assuming no restrictions, there are none reported right now for him, but it's just a bad spot, likely off of him in both cash and tournaments. Batum, 6.8, much cheaper at FanDuel, but still, Batum is a great play at both sides. As we said earlier, Minnesota has allowed the most DraftKings points to shooting guards over their last 10 games. Andrew Wiggins, perfectly fine at shooting guards, more for tournaments than cash. Zach LaVine, only 6,000 at DraftKings. Also, given his minutes, a terrific play. Monta Ellis, as I said earlier, 33 DraftKings points over his last 4 games. A really bad spot. Definitely can't cash, even though his salary is low at 5,800. But certainly you can roster him in tournaments. Not on Evan Fournier. Jamal Crawford, only 5,000, a team-high usage since Jeff Green initially debuted with the Clippers. But we all know his floor, so just be careful. Tournaments only. JJ Redick, the same. His peripherals never really fill out. If he doesn't score, he's not going to fill the stat sheet whatsoever. Wesley Matthews and Raymond Felton, 4,900 and 4,200. It all depends on Dallas exposure. Like, once again, we'll have those push notifications ready just in case. J.R. Smith off of in tournaments, assuming Tony Allen plays, which he's expected to. Memphis had been getting grilled by shooting guards without Tony Allen, so I'm okay with tournaments if he's out. But right now, it doesn't appear as he is. And Mario Hezonja back to the bench with Oladipo and Fournier now healthy. And finally, I'm Shumpert. Maybe a little exposure, in tournaments especially, given his new role in the rotation, the additional minutes and using their smaller lineups, but only tournaments.
That it for no dumpster diving?
Boy, you look at dumpster diving at shooting guard, and I mean,
yeah, that's bad. I got a really good dumpster dive for small forward, so I'll get there. I'll cover that.
Please go, because please don't make me roster Ben McLemore or anything like that.
No, you're not doing that. Okay. All right, so I'll kick off small forward with LeBron James. I think is definitely the way the slate's shaping up to be a tournament play. We got kind of guys locked in at other positions you need to spend at. Kawhi, I think, is a strong cash play on DK at 8,200. Definitely be pretty hard to fit him in. Giannis as well at 8,200, who I think we all like more than Kawhi just because of the ceiling and similar floors for both these guys with point Giannis we got now. Paul George at 8,100, definitely underpriced if you're just looking at kind of raw totals for him in terms of fantasy production. But the hardest matchup pretty much in the NBA here, so I would avoid him. Chandler Parsons, I definitely don't mind term exposure if Dirk is out. Rudy Gay, kind of a guy we overlooked at this price, 5,900 in that game, kind of combing through small forward. I would consider him a decent cash play on this slate with the total, the implied points for Sacramento, and kind of how you won't really easily be able to afford some of these higher priced small forwards. So I think he's a strong tournament play and a possible cash play if you're not paying up for Giannis or Kawhi here. After that, Harrison Barnes, I think more so on FanDuel where he's underpriced. Assuming Iguodala is held out, you can kind of have some tournament exposure to him. Jeff Green, I don't mind tournament exposure. He's a perfect tournament player with Mbah Moute out. Shabazz Muhammad, I think you're kind of hoping for a blowout or reduced minutes again for Jang and increased minutes for Baz. Can offer some upside there. After that, small forward really is really bad. The dumpster diving guy I had was, I mean, obviously he's questionable. It's arguably our most important status is Luke Babbitt. So if he's in this one, you know what to do.
Fade Giannis. It'll end up on him.
Yeah. All right. Well, Justin, you want to kick off the bigs?
Yeah. We got Boogie Cousins kicking off at power forward on DK. Going to be the most highly owned stud of the slate. Kind of as chalky as it gets in this spot against the Pels with his total, this tight spread, and against Omer Ashik and company. Oh, and Kendrick Perkins and company too.
Yeah.
Anthony Davis, I don't think we talked about him enough, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he actually might be my favorite tournament play because you get him in this high total game, this close spread. You don't get the concerns with blowout with Steph Curry. You don't get the potentially with Chris Paul if Dirk sits out. I think he's going to be very lightly owned compared to those two guys, Chris Paul and Steph. So I do like me some Anthony Davis in tournaments. Kevin Love, not really. I prefer Kyrie Irving as a tournament play. Zach Randolph, not really against Cavs front court. Aaron Gordon, he's going to be really tricky to project. I don't even know where I'm going to put his minutes at on Monday, but tournament only. I do like him as a tournament play, though, because he is still really softly priced on FanDuel at A. So with him there, Jabari Parker, roll him in cash. Don't even think about it. Bulls front court. He's been playing amazing, so lock him in. Ryan Anderson, light tournament exposure, but worried about the minutes. David Lee, like him a lot. If Dirk sits out, he'll have to pick up a lot of the offensive slack, and he'll see some, obviously more minutes in that front court. Man, it does not look
bad.
It's ugly.
I went too far. Oh.
Yeah, if you're a real masochist and you wanna chase points, get some Quincy Acy in your life. 10 first quarter points against the Spurs tilted me, because I had some boogie going. But he I don't know what he does, but
3,700. If Chris Anderson's out, I'm fine with JaMychal Green in tournaments. Light exposure, but
yeah.
Fine. Yeah. That's
they
cool.
have no other center. Like no one else would play big besides Randolph.
You might keep your job with that one.
Maybe. Not likely.
To be determined. All right, let's get past center, and then we can talk about John's job status afterwards. Pau Gasol, love him in tournaments. We focus on that Bulls front court being soft, but the Bucks front court defensively is pretty soft as well. And he, played 38 minutes last game. So if he even comes close to that, he's going to, post a huge line. Karl-Anthony Towns, like him in tournaments a lot. Don't trust Sam Mitchell. Minutes volatility, the spread there potentially can get a little dicey, but obviously crushes on a per minute basis. DeAndre Jordan, I like Gasol and Towns better as tournament plays. So he's kind of in that weird spot where I'm not going to cast him. And then Jay's just over there just like interrupting.
You can't wait to open the candy until after the podcast?
What? You guys couldn't hear me?
Yeah, we could. Mute your mic.
No, I want you to hear the deliciousness of Reese's. Keep going. Keep going with center.
Oh my gosh. I might fire you. Nick Vucevic, decent tournament exposure, but not jumping all over him. Do you like Greg Monroe a little better, though, against that Bulls front court? Let's see. Diving a little deeper in here.
It's not great.
Yeah.
So who's your favorite cash play? Assuming you go, Boogie, kind of maybe one of those 8K or 77 for Drew. I mean, who's your center on this, especially DraftKings where it's really hard to fit guys? The cheapest realistic guy in cash. I mean, who are you looking at?
Yeah.
We don't have Alex Len anymore. Like, I don't know what to do without Alex Len.
I mean, you might have to look at, I don't know, paying up for Cat. We'll have to see. I mean, it's Cat, DeAndre. I don't know. It's tough. I mean,
it's tough.
FanDuel, obviously, Boogie's your centers, and
right.
It's gonna be a tough spot. I might have to pay a little bit more Greg Monroe than I want to.
That's the guy I'm going to be looking at.
Yeah, because I think he's like moderately priced where I can do something else with my roster, but offers somewhat of a floor with some semblance of a ceiling. I don't want to go too deep and get into I don't know, Kaminsky or
Yeah, exactly. I think Monroe's the lowest. Monroe's probably the guy I'm targeting. Given that I'm going to go Boogie at power forward and one of those 3-point guards in the 77 to 8K range. And
I think David Lee, assuming whatever shakes out with the Mavericks in the flex forward spot, just because he's so cheap.
No, exactly. I mean, you're definitely looking for cheap guys here. And then you kind of get into the Rudy Gay 5,900 against the Pelicans and that total. He's another guy you can kind of look at. I mean, you're definitely going to have to save money at a lot of positions on DraftKings to pay up for the Boogie.
Yeah, Lee is power forward on FanDuel and power forward on DK too. So he doesn't technically qualify, but he is good
right.
Money.
Yeah. All right, cool. Anybody else at center?
I don't want to get too cute here.
Right.
It's ugly. I mean, you're reaching quite a bit for some of these lower end guys. It's a lot of Hornets and. I mean, maybe Jan Mahimni, but he plays the Spurs.
Yeah, maybe Zaza playing a few additional minutes, going against DeAndre.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
it gets ugly.
It gets ugly.
Yeah. Right. All right, cool. Well, that's the quick hits for you guys. I think we wrapped up all the positions. It's definitely a slate I think you want to target these really high total games, especially that Kings-Pelicans game, kind of get a lot of exposure to that one and just really take advantage of matchups. We have a lot of very difficult matchups. We got Cleveland's D, the Spurs D, Indy's D, even Memphis D. So I think you really want to pick your spots, play the matchups, find these value guys, and pay up where you can, and that's about it.
And just remember, can, drain, hot sauce, eat.
Nice parting words. That's the last we'll ever hear from John. We'll have a pod for you guys on Tuesday night, breaking down Wednesday's big slate. Until then, good luck, everybody.